All right, so you want to learn how to become a pilot in South Africa. Buckle up because we're about to take a deep dive into the world of aviation.
Sounds exciting.
It is. We've got a ton of info here from an online Q&A, and it seems like a lot of people are interested in this.
Yeah, lots of questions.
Yeah. So we're going to cover all the basics like licenses, training, the whole 9 yards, but also,
Those are the realities.
yeah, what it really takes to be a pilot.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in. One thing that surprised me was that you can actually start training pretty young in South Africa.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Most schools want you to be at least 16, but
16. Wow.
yeah, some will even let you start earlier if you're really passionate.
That's amazing.
For those professional licenses like the CPL, you need to be 17, but getting that early exposure can give you a real advantage.
Yeah, I bet. All those exams and stuff later on, starting early probably helps. Speaking of exams, what are those like?
Oh, well, it depends on the license. Each level, from the SPL all the way up to the ATPL, has different challenges.
Right.
So like for the SPL, which is where you start, you need to show you can handle the basics, the aircraft and the rules. Then you have a flight test with an instructor.
Makes sense.
But as you move up, the exams get harder. They cover more advanced stuff like weather, navigation, all the aircraft systems. And for the ATPL, oh boy, you're looking at multiple theory exams.
Oh, wow.
Plus, you'll be in the flight simulator and have that final flight test. They really want to see you can handle being the pilot in command.
Wow, that's intense. So it's not just about flying, you need to know everything.
Exactly.
All right. Now, what about vision? Do you have to have perfect vision to be a pilot?
Not necessarily. You can wear glasses or contacts, but the key is you have to meet the medical standards of the South African CAA.
The CAA, right?
Yeah, they'll give you a full medical exam to make sure you're fit to fly.
So you need a clean bill of health.
Yeah.
And it's not just a one-time thing.
Right. No. Regular checkups are a must for your entire flying career, and make sure you're healthy, both physically and mentally, because flying is demanding. It's all about safety.
Absolutely. So we've got age, health.
Mhm.
What about education? Do you need like a specific degree to start training?
You don't need a metrics certificate to start flying.
Really?
Yeah, but it really helps to have good academic skills, especially in math and science.
Makes sense. You need to understand the why behind what you're doing in the cockpit.
Exactly. Understanding stuff like physics and math will make you a much better pilot in the long run.
Okay, so for those who are ready to take the plunge, how do they actually start training?
Well, that's where those CAA-accredited flying schools, also called ATOs, come in.
ETOs.
Yeah, approved training organizations, they handle all the pilot training and guide you through getting those licenses.
And I imagine choosing the right school is important.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're not all the same. Some might specialize in helicopters, others might be more fixed-wing focused. All depends on what you want to do.
Right. All right, so let's talk about the licenses then.
Yeah.
We always hear about SPL, PPL, CPL, and ATPL. Can you break down what each of those means?
Yeah, of course. Each license shows a different skill level and responsibility. So you start with your student pilot license, the SPL.
Okay.
That lets you fly solo, but with your instructor watching over you. That's where you get that first feeling of being in control.
I bet that's amazing. Your first solo flight.
Oh, it is. Then you can move on to the private pilot license, the PPL.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
for people who want to fly for fun.
Yeah, for fun. Okay.
But if you want to fly for a living, you'll need the commercial pilot license, the CPL.
Right. And then there's the ATPL, the Airline Transport Pilot License. That's the one everyone wants, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's the top level license. You can be the pilot in command of those big commercial planes with the ATPL.
It sounds like a long journey, though.
Yeah.
Lots of flying hours, tough exams, all that.
Oh, it is. You'll be logging hundreds of flight hours in those exams. They really make sure you know your stuff.
So what are some of the differences between the training for, say, the CPL and the ATPL?
Well, for the CPL, you're learning to fly smaller aircraft commercially. It's about 200 flight hours minimum, plus a bunch of theory exams, and of course, proving you can handle all the maneuvers.
Oh, right.
Now, the ATPL, that's a whole different beast. You're talking at least 1,500 hours of flight time, way more intense theory exams covering complex stuff like meteorology and even simulator training to handle those tricky situations.
Wow, that's a huge step up.
Yeah, it is.
But let's be real, becoming a pilot isn't exactly cheap.
You're telling me.
So what kind of financial investment are we talking about here?
Well, it depends what license you're going for and where you train. For a PPL, you're looking at maybe R150,000 to R250,000.
Good.
That includes everything: ground school, flight time, the exams.
I see.
But for the CPL, it jumps up quite a bit. You're looking at maybe R500,000 to over R1 million. Yeah, because there are more flight hours, tougher exams, and extra certifications you might need, like an instrument rating. And the ATPL, well, that's even more. You've got specialized training, simulator time, and something called type ratings for specific aircraft.
Okay, so that's a lot of money. Are there any ways to help with the costs, like financial assistance or something?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You've got bank loans for education. Some schools have payment plans, and there are scholarships specifically for pilots.
Oh, scholarships. That's good.
Yeah.
And I've heard some airlines even sponsor pilots.
That's right. They have these cadet pilot programs. It's basically a sponsorship where they cover most of your training costs.
That sounds amazing.
Oh, it is, but they're very competitive.
Yeah, I bet. So it's not just about the big airlines, right? There are other paths you can take with a pilot's license.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll dive into those other career options in the next part of our deep dive. There's a whole world of aviation out there beyond the airlines.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part. We'll be back after a short break to explore those other career paths and what it's really like to be a pilot. Stay tuned. So we're back, and now I'm curious about what happens after all that training. What's the job market like for pilots in South Africa?
Well, it's a pretty dynamic industry here.
Okay, good.
We've got some great airlines like South African Airways, Flysafair, Airlink.
Right, the big ones.
Yeah, they offer good salaries, and you get to fly those fancy new planes.
I bet a lot of people want those airline jobs, though.
Oh, yeah. It's competitive, especially when you're just starting out.
So what are airlines looking for in a pilot?
Well, the ATPL is a must-have, of course.
Right, makes sense.
And they want to see lots of flight hours, usually around 2,000 or even more.
2,000 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it shows you have the experience. You've been in different situations and can make good decisions under pressure.
Makes sense. So if you're just starting out and don't have all those hours, what do you do?
Well, there are tons of other ways to get experience.
Okay.
Becoming a flight instructor is a popular choice.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
You get to share your love of flying, help train new pilots, and those hours count towards your total.
It's a win-win.
Exactly.
What other options are out there besides the airlines?
Well, you could go into charter flying.
Charter flying. Okay.
Yeah, you're basically flying for private companies or individuals.
Oh, I see.
It's pretty flexible. You might be doing scenic tours, flying business people around, or even medical evacuations.
Oh, wow. That's a wide range. So charter pilots get to do a bit of everything.
Pretty much.
What about cargo? I always thought that side of aviation was really important.
Oh, it is. It's huge.
Yeah.
Cargo pilots are essential for moving goods all over the world. And with online shopping and everything needing to be delivered fast, the demand for cargo pilots is growing like crazy.
That's true. So if you don't mind not having passengers, it could be a good option.
Definitely.
Are there any other specialized areas pilots can get into?
Oh, for sure. You've got corporate aviation where you fly private jets.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, it's a pretty niche area, but you get to fly to some interesting places. Then there's agricultural aviation,
Agricultural aviation, what's that?
crop dusting, aerial firefighting, things like that. And of course, there's search and rescue.
Wow, it's amazing how many different applications there are for piloting skills.
Yeah, it's not just about flying from one place to another.
But let's be honest, being a pilot isn't always glamorous.
That's true.
It can be demanding, right?
Oh, yeah, it takes a lot of dedication. You'll be working long hours, the schedule can be unpredictable, and you might be away from home for a while.
That's a big commitment. How do pilots manage a work-life balance with that kind of schedule?
Well, it's not always easy,
Yeah.
but a lot of airlines and aviation companies are starting to offer things like predictable rosters, so you know what you're working.
Oh, okay, that helps.
And they're trying to be more flexible with scheduling and give longer leave periods. It's getting better.
That's good to hear. But even with those changes, the work itself can be pretty intense, right?
Absolutely. Being in the cockpit, you have to be focused all the time. It's a high-pressure environment.
How do pilots deal with that kind of stress? Especially during a long flight or in bad weather?
Well, training is a big part of it.
Right.
Pilots spend a lot of time in simulators and real-life scenarios learning to handle emergencies.
Okay.
They also learn something called crew resource management.
What's that?
Basically, it's all about communication and teamwork in the cockpit. Everyone working together, making decisions together. It helps distribute the workload and makes things less stressful.
That makes a lot of sense.
Ah.
So it's a team effort up there.
It is. And a lot of pilots use things like mindfulness or relaxation techniques to stay calm.
Okay, so mental preparedness is just as important as the technical skills.
For sure.
But let's not forget about the good stuff.
Oh, yeah, there are tons of rewards.
Besides the pay and the travel, What are some of the things that make being a pilot so special?
Well, there's that feeling of accomplishment, you know?
Yeah.
You've mastered this incredible skill.
Yeah.
And knowing you're responsible for everyone on board, it's a big responsibility, but it's also rewarding. And then there's the simple joy of flying.
Right. That feeling of freedom.
It's hard to describe.
It sounds incredible. But we've talked about the challenges, the rewards. What advice would you give someone who's just starting out? Someone who wants to be a pilot?
I'd say the most important thing is to be passionate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That passion will keep you going when things get tough, and they will get tough.
Yeah, there are always bumps in the road.
Exactly. You got to learn from those bumps and keep going. Find people who support you, other pilots, mentors, join aviation communities.
So find your tribe, your people.
Exactly. And remember, aviation is always changing. New technology, new rules, new opportunities. You have to be open to learning and adapting.
So never stop learning.
Never. It's a lifelong journey.
That's great advice. What about something more practical? Like, what's the first step someone should take if they want to be a pilot?
Well, do your research, look into different flight schools, talk to pilots, see what it's really like.
Good idea.
And most importantly, go take a discovery flight.
Oh, an introductory flight lesson.
Yeah, actually experience flying. That's the best way to know for sure if it's for you.
That's a great point. Sometimes you just have to jump in and try it. All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into becoming a pilot in South Africa. We've talked about all the steps, the training, the costs, the different jobs you can do, and even what it's really like to be a pilot.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But I think what's really inspiring is seeing how passionate people are about aviation. It's not just a career, it's something more.
Oh, definitely. There's a real sense of purpose.
Yeah, it's like a calling.
Yeah.
You're mastering this incredibly challenging skill, and you're contributing to something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And you get to see the world from a whole new perspective.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that.
So for those listening who feel that pull towards aviation, that desire to fly, what advice would you give them? What should they keep in mind as they start their journey?
I think the most important thing is to hold on to that passion.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because there will be challenges along the way, times when you want to give up. But if you have that passion, it'll keep you going.
It's the fuel that keeps you moving forward.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Right. Find your people.
Reach out to other pilots, find mentors, join those aviation communities. There are people who have been there, done that, and they're happy to help.
And I think it's important to remember that aviation is always changing.
Oh, absolutely.
New tech, new regulations. It's a constantly evolving field. You have to be willing to adapt and keep learning.
Lifelong learning, that's the key. Never stop being curious, never stop trying to improve.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a sense of possibility. If you have that dream of flying, don't let anything hold you back. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Embrace the challenges, celebrate the wins, and keep reaching for the sky.
That's the spirit. And who knows, maybe one day we'll see you up in the clouds.
That's right. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep aiming high.